welcome back to Grandma's house. I'm glad you're here. Pull up to the table if you dare to drop some knowledge. That's all we speak here. Welcome back to Grandma's house. I'm Grandma MC Meek, aka Shamika Davis Boyd, welcoming all grandparents to a podcast where they get to speak out freely about situations they are dealing with in their everyday lives in these uncertain times. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being a part of a community of grandparents that wants to make a difference in their grandchildren's lives. Today's topic, grandparents, what do you do when your adult children tries to punish you by keeping your grandchildren out of your lives? Let's talk about it. Grandpa's perspectives and involvement with their grandchildren does have an effect on grandfathers' lives. Like I always say, no one can tell your story like you. Today, I would like to welcome my guest, my husband, LaRon, aka Papa. This is what I mean when I say it takes a village. Men are so important in all stages of a child's life. Welcome, LaRon, and thank you for being here and talking to us about such an important topic.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. How are you today?
I'm well. I'm blessed.
Great, that's great. So, what do you feel about this topic we're talking about today on some of the questions I'm going to talk to you about is like, let's talk about 5 important things that is affecting our community of grandparents. Okay? Like I said, the topic today is, what do you do when your adult children are trying to punish you by keeping your grandchildren out of your life? How do it affect you as a man, as a pop-up, as a granddad, as a man of a community of as a grandfather? And is society making this a normal behavior? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, it's sad. It hurts, because you probably get to see them maybe once every 6 months or so, or if that at all, for the whole year, missing birthdays. Well, society is just like, everybody is pretty much prone to what it is what it is. So if they don't come by, you don't see them, they don't call, so be it. That's how everybody's looking at it now. And a lot of grandparents, especially grandfathers, are out of the loop just as much as fathers are. So if the father's out of the picture or not dealing with the child, then the grandparents suffer. They suffer daily because a lot of times the grandfathers wants to be there with the grandchildren when their daughters or their sons is not with their significant other.
Yeah. So do you think it's what do you think about if it's a punishment? Like, do you think it's intentional? Like, some of the children are intentionally doing this to the grandparents because of whatever the feeling they have towards that parent, so they don't care, or it's an emotional thing of them knowing it affects you as a man, as a grandfather? What do you think about that word punishment?
Well, it depends on the situation. And yeah, it's a punishment when they make the decision to say, hey, listen, if I don't talk to my parents and I don't deal with them, they're not going to deal with my kid. It's point blank, simple as that, And that's a punishment.
Right. Yes, yeah. And I agree with that, as being a grandmother, and we all go through whatever situation with our children, but for them to try to punish me or punish a woman or a grandmother because of whatever problem they're going through with their adult children is really so disrespectful, But from how I handle it is I leave it to God, because there's nothing else I can do. I leave it in God's hand, because I know I'm going to constantly and keep on preaching every chance I get to see my grandchildren and tell them how much I love them, and let them know that I'm here.
Right.
I'm never gonna let them not know who I am. They're gonna hear it one way or another, So I can't push the issue no more than that adult child want to push the issue.
Right.
So if they do not feel that I'm important enough or you are important enough as a grandfather to be in that child's life, then that's something they have to deal with. Because I have a cousin who told me a long time ago when it came to, being a part of stepchildren, and he said to me, Mika, that's not your child. You have to let things go. You got to let those parents raise their child, and you can't be so emotional attached to those children.
Right.
And it didn't hit me until he said that to me. And I was like, oh, and it helped me so much, even to this day, that I have to let go, because when I love someone and I put my heart in something, it's above and beyond.
Right.
So I have to do the same thing when it comes to my grandchildren. We have to realize as grandparents that they are our grandchildren, they're not our children. So all the rules is not ours.
Exactly.
And that's how I feel in a woman's point of view. So I know how hard it is as grandparents when the adult children is making the decisions. And when they make the decision, they're making it on anger, and they're making it on emotions, but they don't know the effect that they're doing for us and the grandchildren.
Right.
So they're not helping the situation at all. But how does it affect you?
Severely, severely. It's almost like a knife in the back, and taking out your guts, because the child had nothing to do with any disparity that you have with your child. So with your grandchildren, what they got to do with anything, and when you put them as a pawn into the lives with you and the grandchildren, then that's just as bad as you having a spat with your own children. So it's disheartening.
Right. So that's what we mean by is society normalizing this behavior, because the adult children that's in their 30s or whatever, they are so much into the world that they don't know the priority of what they should be doing as a parent when it comes to who their children need to be around,
right?
The environment the children need, and that's why it's so normalized. So if you see they feel if you see them, you see them. If you don't, you don't. When we need you, yes, you can see your grandchildren.
Right.
When we don't really need you and we got things to do, hey, y'all catch up to us when y'all can.
Exactly.
And that's the part that's really destroying our Black community and communities of all nationalities that's dealing with this situation.
Right.
So that's why it was so important for you to be on here as a man, as a pop in this village, because a lot of men feel the same way, but they don't speak out, or they don't have a community to talk about this kind of situation.
Right.
Because sometimes the man be at work, the pop-pop be at work, and the grandchildren will come over for a little while, and then by the time the pop-pop get off of work, the grandchildren are already gone. So what about the grandfather? Did they get a chance to see the grandchildren?
Right.
No, they don't really get a chance to see the grandchildren. But when they get maybe once on their birthdays, sometimes they drag them from work and get to go to Chuck E. Cheese or something.
Right.
But the grandfather really is not interacting with that child or giving any wisdom or knowledge, because it's a playtime. So the child is not focused on the grandparents at their time or their party.
Right.
So again, it affects the situation of bonding with the grandparents. What do you think about that?
Because at the end of the day, when they see other kids or somebody pick up some grandparents picking up their kid from school or daycare, and it's like, oh, you got a grandparent? It's almost like a missing mother or missing father. Like, I didn't know you had a dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I didn't know you had a granddad.
Yeah.
So it goes the same way. You know what I mean? So when a lot of the kids are missing their grandparents out of their lives, and some don't know they exist, and that comes with the point of the emotional disparity and the trauma and whatever situation that happened between your own children.
Right.
So now it's at the point of like, okay, well, they feel comfortable because they made a decision, like, I'm not dealing with them.
Right.
I'm not dealing with my parents. You're not going to see your father. You're not going to see your grandfather. You're not going to see your grandmother, and it's just going to go down the generations.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then and you talk about this new day and age to where a lot of kids don't have grandparents, don't know of their grandparents, which also leaves uh, a black mark, especially with black communities and black people trying to know your heritage, know why you sick, why you got a disease. If it's genetic, it came down from somebody else, and you have no idea because you're not dealing with the grandparent.
Right, right.
And then you got great grandparents out here, and they don't know them either. You know, they know of them or don't know anything about them, don't know their heritage. It gets worse.
Right, right. So thank you for that. That's really good. You know, a lot of good information. So let's go to the second question. You know, this is our second out of our 5. So, is it a grandchild's birthright to be a part of their grandparent? Is it a birthright?
Of course, I think so. Because again, it's a spawn of you.
Yeah.
You know, it's the second generation of you.
Right.
So, you know, as a great grandparent, as a great great grandchild, that's a second, third generation of you.
Yeah.
You know, that's your family bond,
Right.
your blood ties,
Legacy.
your legacy. So, yes, you know, that's very important. The importance of that also is you being recognized.
Right.
You know, you recognizing who you are, where you came from. See, I grew up with my grandparents on both sides.
Right. That's a
So
blessing. That's a
I
blessing.
got an opportunity to talk with them, sit down, learn where I came from. You know, my mother kept me in the loop. You know, my grandmother took us to church, both of them. You know, so
Thank God for your grandparents for church.
for
That
church,
helped
you know,
us out.
so yeah,
Our generation.
and our generation, of course. Now, you know, nobody barely goes to church. They don't take the grandkids to church,
Right.
so they don't want to learn certain things in life.
Our
Just,
values is
just
not,
values.
it's not followed. It's
Yeah,
not
just
followed.
off
Right.
jump. You know, yeah, of course.
And you know, and I believe in a spiritual way when I say our grandchildren's birthrights are taken from them. And what I mean that in a spiritual way, it's a blessing when God make you a grandparent and you a grandchild. And grandparents supposed to be valued. We know our worth. Our grandchildren is so precious to us, and it's spiritual. Such a spiritual bond,
Right.
you know. So when that birthright is taken away from them as a child and us as grandparent, it's something that the parents gonna have to they're gonna have to answer to that. That's how I feel.
I mean, that's true. But again, God's willing, if they live as long as we live and they wind up being grandparents, they don't have that same burden. But if you put that burden in the atmosphere, the universe will return.
It will return it. It will return it.
Yeah.
Right, right. And it you know, just me knowing, you know, and it's the crazy part of you and I being married and, you know, and blending our families. And so we have blended grandchildren. So, you know, I have 5 biological grandchildren and you have 4 biological grandchildren. And together we have 9 grandchildren. And, you know, I thank you. I thank God for bringing you in my life, that you are such a wonderful grandfather to all 5 of my grandchildren. And you've been there since their birth.
Yeah.
And they don't know you was their papa. That's all they know.
Right, right.
But the sad part about it is your biological children and your biological grandchildren, you don't get to instill in them as much love and attention that you do your step grandchildren, because of the situation or because of how your biological children want to handle the situation. And you know, let's talk about how you feel as a man and a pop in that aspect of raising your step or your step grandchildren and not being a part of your biological grandchildren. How did that feel to you?
Wow. Um, it sucks. It sucks. It sucks bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because with my own biological grandchildren, I don't see. Like it's going on like 3 years for my son's kids and my daughters. I'm only seeing what almost 5 years now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I one time seeing them, and that was it. First and last time, 5 years ago.
Right, right.
So we talking about 5 years ago for my daughter's kids, and almost 3 for my son's kids, and I think that's like, and it's just the worst. It's just the worst because like with your grandchildren, yes, they all know me, and they know about me. They know who I am, what I look like. They know my name. I ain't just pop or some ordinary guy. I'm not in and out their life. So I can be recognized in the street by them.
Right.
But my own grandchildren, I wouldn't know them. They wouldn't know me from the light of day.
Right. Their birthrights
Yeah.
of you is completely neglected and taken away.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, and it's not, again, go back to saying it's not those kids' fault.
definitely.
It's not
You're
their fault.
you know,
But again, their parents are adults. So based on the decisions they made,
There's
you made
nothing
your
really you
bed,
can
you know what I'm saying? You made your bed, you gotta lie in it.
Right. And even though it's amazing, and just as adults, and just as grandparents, no matter what our adult children do to us or whatever the attitude or emotion are towards us, we still love our grandchildren, and we're gonna
course.
do everything to our ability
Mhm.
to make sure we leave a legacy for them and
Of
we leave
course.
something for them. So that's how I handle the situations that our adult children do. That's
Mhm.
how I handle the situation because I can't control what they do.
Yeah.
And at this point in my life, I don't even care what they do.
Mhm.
I know I have to do better. So
Right.
what I do to do better is keep growing,
Yeah.
keep on doing things for me to know that I'm leaving a legacy. I'm making a difference for them.
Right. And stay
So-
in prayer.
And stay in prayer. And that's what's important because I'm not going to let them take our grandchildren birthrights away. I'm
Right.
not going to allow it. I'm not going to allow them to do that. But I'm not going to allow them to aggravate me too. And for me, what hurts is having grown children who's very disrespectful,
Mhm.
and I'm not allowing no more disrespect towards
Of
me
course not.
from no one. And it because it's about my health now,
Mhm.
and for my children to take the children away and come from me and do what they want to do when they want to do it is something I deal with every day.
Right.
Every day I deal with that, but like I said, I put it in God's hands
Mhm.
because my children, I'm not going to allow them to hurt me.
Of course.
Because I think about it now as a woman. I raised my children. I had children. God blessed my womb to push out 3 babies, healthy babies. So my time have came and it has gone.
Right.
So I'm not going to argue with no woman or man about their children.
Mhm.
And that's how I put in my mindset to be able to control the matters with that hand.
Right.
So my mental and everything will not be affected what they trying to do. And that's how I
course.
feel,
Well,
so you're
yeah,
not going to punish me.
That's
You punish me.
that's
You
I
punish me
mean
yourself.
that's the thing. It's like if you let people control your emotions or how you feel about certain situations, then they got the power over you.
Right.
So in order for them not to get the power over you, pray over them and move on.
And move on.
You know what
Even
I'm
though it
saying?
hurts.
Of course. It sucked, it hurt, but again, pain don't last forever. You know what I'm saying? But pain you can get over in time. And eventually when time passes, a lot of time passes within your favor.
I like that. Passes in your favor.
I mean, you gotta have favor, but you gotta be patient.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, that's great. Let's go to the next number 3 out of the 5 questions. So the next one is, if you do not have a relationship with your children, with your own children, should you have a relationship with your grandchildren?
Yeah.
Should we have a relationship with our grandchildren? So if we
Of
are
course.
having problems with our adult children.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, they are either trying to punish you or they don't care about you spending time with your grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, should we, if we're not getting along with our adult children, should we have a relationship with our grandchildren outside of them? What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, it might be difficult at times because they have their children guarded most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get a situation where they want to take their kid to somebody else's house, and you're there or you're on your way. You know, so now this word's going to be exchanged. Oh, if my parent come over, I don't want them to see my kid, or who if they coming over here? If they come, I'm not coming. You know,
Yeah.
you get bullshit like that. You
And
know,
kids can feel that
yeah,
negative energy,
that
right?
negative energy comes around, or they get skeptical about certain stuff, and you know, it's stupid. But again, this is what we're dealing
It's
with.
becoming a norm.
This is what we're dealing with this new age of children, and then they young and stupid.
Yeah.
You know, because why? They think because they have a child, they're a parent. Yes, you are. By law, by God, you are. But you have no idea exactly what to do.
Right.
So you just going along with shit what everybody else do, like society.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at it, it's like, oh well, what am I supposed to do about this? What am I supposed to do about that?
Mm-hmm.
Now you got a bunch of young single mothers out here and young dumb fathers out here, and all of them keep claiming they are moms, they have dads, they this, they that. Yeah, biologically.
Yeah.
But emotionally wise, you don't have a clue what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
You know, so you get a lot of that with a lot of people, especially with our own kids, because now it's at the point where this is the situation we got to deal with.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of what people see as society, it becomes the norm because now you can't say certain things to them, you can't do certain things with them.
Yeah.
Now you got to duck and hide to see your grandchildren. You know, it's redundant. It's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just feel like with that question, it's so broad, you know. I think you definitely should be able to have a relationship with your grandchildren, even if you're not dealing with you know your adult children. Just like parents that no longer with their significant other, and they have children. They have to still, each parent has to see that child, and you have to deal with that child, but they don't deal with each other. It's the same thing with grandparents that's going on right now, but the parent has the care and the grandparents has the care.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they
both
have to,
parties.
right, both parties have to care enough to see how that's going to happen. And what that mean is, even with us, with the situation we go through, even if the children are just left at our home and we spend time with them and the parent is nowhere around, you come back and pick your child up after we finish spending time. Is that the ideal of what we want? No. But if that can control the atmosphere and not bring the negative energy around the child, then at that time, whatever the situation is, I think it's good. It's okay.
Yeah.
Is the children affected by this situation because they don't see their parents with their grandparents? Yes, it is effective. Just like I said, parents is getting divorced and their children are around, the child is affected. Now in society, it's just going right into the grandparents now. So first, the mother and the father split up, so the children is split up. They're not with their parents.
Right.
Then now the grandparents is split up with their children, and it's just a norm to the child now.
Right.
No one is together.
Right.
But again, what these adult children has to understand, these are your children. If you are making this life normalized to your child, that's what you're doing. But what I'm so thankful for, the grandchildren that is a part of our lives all the time, Lauren, is the best feeling in the world. Like
Right.
we have our grandchildren that's with us all the time, and those calls, hi grandma, hi grandpa, they just calling. We just calling to say hi.
Yeah.
We going to their baseball games and their basketball games,
Football.
football games and birthday parties, and those moments. I'm not taking that for granted. The
not.
grandchildren that wants to be in our lives, and the children that want their children in our lives, it means the world. It's the best feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't want to You don't want to pick out who's your favorite grandchildren. You don't
Nah.
want to be put in that position. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
not at all.
Not at all. But the way society is going now and the way the children, adult children are acting, it's kind of pushing grandparents to start saying who their favorite grandchildren is, and it's really bad. What you think about
I mean, I think it depends on a lot of people's situation
Yeah.
because then you got some badass grandkids. That's
Yeah.
that's it. You got badass grand. They don't listen.
Yeah.
You know, people putting up their grandkids online now, beating up their grandparents. Like that shit is crazy.
Yeah, no.
You know, so you got some badass grandkids.
It's all
So
goes with respect and
Yeah.
the adult children knowing our value. What the child is taught, babe. If they taught a certain way, of course they're gonna beat their grandparents up, make fun of them,
well, I
and
mean
treat them a
that
certain way.
that all boils down to how they was raised.
Right.
Because if the child was raised by an abusive parent, then the grandchildren are gonna do the same thing. You know, it's just all how people environment it is. But we normalize stuff because it's okay, and a lot of people take it as jokes, as taking it for granted sometimes. But that's abuse at points.
Yes.
You know, you got elderly abuse, you got child abuse, you got middle aged abuse. No matter how you look at it, if you're doing something negative or disruptive and you putting your hands on your siblings or your parent, that's abuse.
Right, right.
You know, but again, a lot of people is like with their children to where is at the I think just now it just the communication is almost gone.
Right.
Because
It's
everybody,
not almost gone. It's gone.
everybody
It's
is
gone.
like,
Pride.
you gonna respect me before I respect you.
Mhm.
You know, and it's like, well, okay, I got first dibs. Why? Because I'm the parent 1st.
Mhm.
I became your parent before you became mine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's important to have respect all the way around, but I'll be damned if I did everything to raise you and you think you're gonna disrespect me and I have to listen to what the hell you gotta say. That's just not gonna happen, you know.
Well, of course
Not
not.
not when you just think you could just say and do whatever you want to do because you feel you grown now. And I just feel when your adult child get to that stage in their lives that they think they know more than you and they think that they can talk back to you or say what they want to say to you, then you have to have that space.
Of
Because I ain't
course.
going to jail for none of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you need the space because we're all emotional creatures, and you're gonna wind up putting your hands on somebody's throat. It's just simple as that.
Yeah.
You know, but again, you gotta have the space because the pride and the respect clashes.
Yeah, definitely.
It clashes
Ego.
because if you got more respect for yourself as much as I got for me, and then you're gonna try to disrespect me, it's not gonna happen. We just gonna bump heads every time.
Right.
You know, either we're gonna fight it out or we're gonna separate, keep a lot of space between each other. But that's where everything comes down to where everybody is at the point where I don't want to deal with them.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna talk to my kid. You're not gonna be around my kids, and you ain't gonna see your grandchildren. This, that, and the third.
Yeah.
It's all manipulation.
Right. And great. That sounds so good, babe. So I'm thinking let's get into the number 4. This what you just said came right into the right time because number 4 question is, what do you do when your grandchildren are strangers? Like they really strangers to you. Like when you don't get to see your biological grandchildren, they're strangers. We're strangers to them, and they're strangers to us. I mean, let's get into that.
Well,
And who to blame? Who is to blame?
First of all, if you're not the grandparent that's staying away, then you can't blame yourself because you're trying to be there.
Right. You want to be there.
You want to be there.
Right.
Now, if you're not trying to be there, then yeah, you at fault because you should be there. You should be trying your best to be in that person's or that child's life, that grandchild's life. Now, on the other hand, if that child's parent is keeping you away, then it's that parent's fault.
Right.
You know. But at the end of the day, if both of y'all haven't reconciled your issues and you putting the grandchildren in the middle, then it's both of y'all faults.
Right. Right.
You know.
But as a now that child is still a stranger.
Well, yeah, the child is a stranger. Like, okay,
And you are a
for
stranger
instance,
to that child.
my grandchildren are like strangers. Well, my other two. That's over 5 years now since I last seen them. But I mean, they're strangers because
They live in another state.
they live in another state, yeah. But I think, well, the one thing is that um, they don't know me personally.
Right.
You know, I'm pretty sure they've seen pictures of me,
Right.
but they don't know me in the flesh.
Right.
So that makes me a complete stranger.
Right.
So if they get to an age where they understand certain things or they see, well, I mean, they're at an age where now that 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, they're not there yet. But when they get to that age and they still haven't seen me, then, you know, it's like all is lost.
Well,
I mean,
I know you feel that way, babe,
but you got to look at it right now. It's been 5 years now,
yeah.
right? The oldest one was already 3.
Yeah. But I always tell you from the time I met you, God has this all in control. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not on the same perspective with you when you say that by the time they get like 10, it's going to be all lost. I really don't believe that. I believe that when they get older and they start learning about grandpas and grandmas and all that stuff, they will look for us and we will be a part of their lives one way or another. You know, right now their parents got control.
I mean, that's good faith. I mean, that's good. That's good faith. I'm saying that's good faith to have because yes, that's a very strong possibility. But your question is, are they strangers? As of this point now, they're complete strangers.
They're strangers.
Because
and
I know of them and they'll know of me.
How
but
to make you feel emotionally that you know
emotionally, that shit hurt like a motherfucker because I ain't that type of guy. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a laid back, cool grandfather.
Right.
I'm still healthy. I'm still young. I can still roll around on the ground with them and wrestle, play, whatever. Right. You know what I'm saying? Try to run up and down the street if I can. But the point of the matter is that I'm not fragile to where I can't move around with my grandchildren.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to lose that because they're strangers at this time, right? Because now I don't wait another 10, 20 years by the time they even see them. You know what I'm saying? So at this moment, they're strangers because we don't talk to them. So if I was able to speak with them on a daily basis or weekly basis, they won't be so much of a stranger because I can start putting some knowledge and wisdom in their ear.
Right.
You know,
that's the most important thing when it comes to grandchildren.
Yeah. So just
knowledge and wisdom.
Knowing about their education and their schooling and knowing about what things they want to do in life and growing up and what they love and what they like, favorite colors and all that type of small sentimental stuff, you know. Right. But you don't have a lot of guys in that position, and then you got a lot of guys that's in that position because some guys is in prison, some guys are, you know, just on the road. They working so hard, so much, they don't have the time, you know. But then that still wind up putting them in a place where they're strangers,
right?
You know. So again, going back to your children, putting the grandchildren in those positions, and to where they're at a space in their lives where they're doing what they got to do, doing what they want to do, to where you become a stranger to them. So they don't even think about picking up the phone or call your grandparents.
Right.
See how your grandma's doing. See how your grandfather doing. You know, or get a letter in the mail or saying, hey, listen, Grandpa, my birthday coming up. You know, anything like that. So, the kids are going to be strangers to you. Yeah. And you got to fight off the feeling of being disrespected because you want to pick up that phone or get in touch some type of way to your child for your grandchildren, and they don't want to accept the call. They don't accept the call. They don't answer the email, the text messages, and then you right back at the beginning again because they don't want to talk to you or say, hey, listen, you have my grandchildren, call me. Right. They got so much overwhelming control over that situation. You'll never get that phone call.
That's a part of, again, it goes back to, you know, number one, them trying to punish you for whatever they feeling, you know. And with my input on that question, as a woman, as a grandma, the grandchildren be a stranger, not being a part of their lives, and what our children did to us, by keeping our last two newborn babies out of our lives when they first was born, in their heads, in some kind of way, they think that it was a big punishment to us, which it was a hurting thing. But I know from living in this world almost 50 years, for being a mom and having a mother who is a grandma, I know it's going to be their punishment. But I don't wish nothing on them,
Yeah, of course.
And I thank God for the children that was born. I thank God for our grandbabies. But the injustice that they did when they made that decision for us not being in the beginning of those children's lives is something that they took from us as grandparents and those children as our grandchildren,
Right.
that they can never get back again.
Right.
And my heart hurts because of that, but again, it was their decision, and I wasn't going to argue with them on their decision, because again, I'm not letting no one destroy my health any more than it's already been destroyed because of situations like that,
Right.
So I know that the love we have for our grandchildren is so deeper than that.
Yeah.
To the core, to know that we're gonna leave everything in our path to let these grandchildren know that we there for y'all. No matter what's
Right.
going on with our children, we're there for y'all. And when y'all old enough to know who we are as individuals, then that's going to be the compensation for our children making those decisions to punish us in whatever they're trying to do to control the situation when it comes to their children. Which
Right.
that's my input. My input on that situation. Leaving it all in God's hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's roll into the fifth question that goes into that. What do you do when your adult children think it's the grandparents' responsibility to stay in touch and involved with their grandchildren? So our adult children feel, okay, if you don't get to see your grandchildren, that's your fault. That's your problem.
Right.
You're supposed to figure out how to get involved with them. What do you feel? I mean, as grandparents, how are we supposed to deal with that? How are we supposed to deal with that? Is it our responsibility? Is it our responsibility
No,
to?
I don't. 100%. I don't think it's our responsibility in that manner, because that's your child. You are the responsible parent to make sure that your child stays in contact with their grandparent. That's a relationship. They have to be taught and trained on relationships. So when you have a relationship with your family member, and your second parents, which is your grandparents, that's a relationship you have to build a bond with.
Right.
Now, you can get your grandchildren to come by, hang out, this, that, and the third, and they don't want to stay too long, or, grandma does this and grandma does that, and she got too many rules, and they don't want to stay. But that's the teaching mechanism.
That's right.
You go to grandma's house to be taught something.
Right.
You
Values.
You go to grandpa, and he gonna teach you how to do things out in the yard and fix things, and cut grass or whatever, take out the trash. But grandma gonna show you how to clean up and cook. All these type of things of value is what grandparents are worth when they're able to do these type of things, because they have the experience in life.
Right.
So it's not their responsibility for you to make sure your child has a relationship with them. It's your responsibility. Well, I mean, it's a huge gap there. It's a huge gap when it comes to your grandchildren and as a grandparent, because of that type of situation. So that gap is huge. And a lot of times, I mean, you got some places and some people in some situations where the grandparent have their grandchildren all the time.
Yeah, right.
They practically raising them.
And that's a part of neglect too, in a different way, right?
Right. So now it's like, okay.
Now the parent is absent, so that doesn't even out with anything.
Because now you're putting that burden on the grandparent to raise your child.
Right.
You know, it's supposed to be a tribe of people, like a village, to where they learning lessons in life,
Right.
what to do, what not to do, and how to keep each other protected.
Right.
You know, um, as a man, as a grandfather, you know, it's all about protection for men, protecting the family. You know, that's my grandchild, that's my granddaughter. You know, that's that type of thing like that.
It's pride.
It's pride.
It's
Yeah.
pride. Just being a grandfather, that's a whole nother level of
Yeah, of
grandparent.
course.
Right.
Of course. So looking at that in a whole is like that's one of the things for a lot of men want to achieve or want to have in their life, that pride of, you know, that's my grandchild, you know, that's a spawn of me.
Yeah.
You know, and when you get older and you get to a certain part of your life, you want to pass down some wisdom to where your grandchildren's like, oh, my grandfather said this, or my grandmother told me this, and I learned this from my grandmother, and my grandfather taught me how to fix a car or change a tire.
Mm-hmm.
Something simple. So a lot of times you get kids that do that, and you get kids that don't. They don't know that, and so, and they like
And they
again,
experience it.
they
Right.
experience
It's a
it.
loss. Right.
Yeah, it's a loss.
And I'm gonna piggyback off of that, and I'm gonna give some life and experiences from what I went through. You know, um, as a young mom of three, I went through a lot of situations with with my mom. You know, and we bumped heads. But one thing I never did was take my children away from my mom. No matter what my mom and I went through, her grandchildren had nothing to do with it.
Right.
She always was able to get her grandchildren, spend time with her grandchildren, and I never tell them nothing about their grandmother. And that's so important. And even my children's father's mother.
Right.
You know, I had no relationship with her after a while. You know, God bless the dead. I had no relationship with her. But when my ex-husband wanted to take those children to see his mother, I did not stop that.
Right.
I automatically packed their bags and sent them out of town, out down south with their grandmother and their father, because I did not want to interfere with the relationship with the grandmother and the grandchildren. It had nothing to do with me and her relationship.
That's good.
Her
And
relationship.
that's good because that's what my mother did for me. You know,
Right.
that's how I was able to spend a lot of time with my grandparents, because my mother living down south and sending me to my grandmother in New Jersey. Yeah, like,
It had nothing to do
okay,
with your father
Nah.
and her relationship.
Nah,
Right. And
you know.
those are decisions as parents we just have to make. It's just the right decision we have to make.
yeah, of course, you know. But now, like I said, now the kids don't do that. You know what I'm saying? So you don't say, okay, well, y'all can go spend the summer with grandma and grandpa.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That
Especially the grandparents that want this.
Yeah, when they
You
want
know,
it, but
because
they're
there's a
not
lot of
doing that no
grandparents
more.
out here that they feel I'm a grandmother, but I look too good, or I'm a
Oh.
grandfather, I look too good, so I don't want people to call me and send your grandkids over there. A lot of
Yeah.
grandparents don't want that, but it's more grandparents that want this than do not want this.
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
because
I mean,
again,
that's true.
it takes it's a blessing to be a grandparent.
and it's definitely a blessing. But again, it's like I said, it's society, it's social media. A lot of people start following other people's mindset. So if you start looking at other people's mindset, well, they gonna turn around and do the same thing. Look, I'm 55. I look too damn good to be called grandma and grandpa and pop up and all this other crap. Call me by my last name or my first name and get the hell out of my face. You know, like nah, you got to be a grandparent at all times, because biologically you are.
Right.
You got kids, you got grandkids.
You gotta
You can't be like, I ain't got no kids. I got kids, I ain't got no grandkids. It's crazy.
Right.
But you know, the thing is that it's difficult, what I believe, in some families, because you know I was raised by my stepfather, so I pretty much been a stepchild my whole birth.
Right.
But I learned value from him.
Right.
You know, pretty much a lot of things he taught me. That's where I got a lot of my understanding from.
Right.
Family values, being committed in a relationship, being married.
Right.
You know, we both on our second marriages with each other together now. You know, so we understand the concept of relationships.
Right.
So with that concept of relationship, yeah, you're gonna go through heartaches and struggles, but when you got what you want out of a person when you sharing your life with somebody.
Right.
That's part of the relationship that you gotta have with your grandchildren. You sharing your life. You telling your grandchildren what you experience in life, and pretty much what they're gonna go through the same thing. We all live on the same rock.
And what we expect from them.
Yeah.
And they love that.
Yeah.
Because they have us as grandparents, somebody they can look up to.
Yeah,
And
but
know-
but again, that they're spawned from us. So
Yes, yeah.
you know what I'm saying. So whatever intelligence these kids have, these grandchildren have, they got it from us.
Yeah, and our children do not want to believe that. And I see, and it's such a blessing because, you know, you raise your children, you see them as babies and everything, and then their child is born, and you get to experience that all over again. And they don't know we seeing these same children again, but it's a feeling that it's so hard to explain to them until they live until they if God get them into that chance in life, you know. So that's when being a spawn, they be like, "Oh, you didn't get that from grandma. You didn't get that from grandpa." Yes, they
You got that from me. That's how they say you got that from me. So
Yeah.
where you got it from?
Where
You know what I'm
get it
saying?
from?
Like
Yeah.
if they got that from where you get it from.
Where did you get it from?
You know what I'm saying? When you get your creativity, your musical talent,
Yeah.
you know, where you get a good ear to hear music from, like, they got that from me. No, where you get it from?
Yeah, and it's amazing because every time I look at the grandchildren, I'd be like, whoa, they be doing things. I'd be like, oh yeah, that's how I was when I was younger, you know, really good in sports. I mean, literally a tomboy like crazy, and I was good at it too. And, you know, just getting on, just not being shy, you know, not being scared of getting dirty. And then I see our grandchildren like, oh, that's such a blessing, you know. So, you know, it's everything in life it's about maturity.
Yeah.
You know, maturity will help you get through so much, you know, even to the point that, you know, we have to share each other's we have to learn how to live with, you know, step grandparents. Like I'm a grandma, and my ex-husband's wife is my grandchildren's grandma too. I can't be like, oh, that's not their grandchild. That's not her grandchild. No, I will not say that. All you do is take care of the grandchildren. You is the grandmother. You married to
Right.
this man. You are the grandmother, and I respect that. But it takes maturity. You have to live life to get up to that stage.
Of
you know,
course, of course.
and it's so important because, again, it takes a village. So whatever I can't do for my biological grandchildren, if you got a step grandmother that can do it, hey, we all can do it. I have no bad feelings.
And
That's the part of life that a lot of people keep trying to separate.
Right. And,
They keep trying to separate things as opposed to what they naturally are.
right.
That's like saying how I can't be a grandparent if I didn't have this kid,
Right.
right? But if I marry somebody under God and they have a biological grandchild, that don't make me a step grand. You know what I'm saying? Like a grandparent. Like nah, because under God's law, you are still a parent to that child.
That's correct.
You know what I'm
It's
saying?
important
So
to take
it's a
that.
lot of things that, you know, it's always the state in religion. But again, people keep trying to separate the two.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Nah, they ain't my this, and they ain't my that, da da da. It's not the point of somebody actually being that holy, but if somebody's actually being there and respecting you
It's common sense.
as a parent and as a child, because as an adult, or y'all both adults, okay, I'm giving you that respect. I'm not taking somebody else's positions that's still here on earth. If they still here, I'm not taking that position. But the point of the matter is, give me that same respect that I'm giving you.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? So a lot of times it just boils down to respecting each other's spaces.
Right. And I just feel also the adult child, if you have an opportunity to have good extra meaning step parents in that child in your child's life, and they're a good extra grandfather or grandma, you can't lose with that, because now you have extra people in that village that's gonna look out for your child.
True, because
you know, that's a blessing.
That's true. Now, say for instance, there wasn't none of this animosity and none of this negativity happening, and everybody was living all happy, joy, right?
Right, like it's
So
supposed to be.
we have all our grandchildren together, and we go visit my mother. Now, your 5 is not biologically her grandchildren.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Her great grandchildren.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? But do she have the right to show that same love? Of course.
Definitely if they give her the respect that she deserves.
Of course.
But my grandchildren, my biological grandkids can never in my presence go to your mom's house and say that's not their great grandmother. That can't happen. Not in my time. That's as long as we are married,
Right.
that's your grandma, that's your great grandmother. You
Right.
know, and that's the respect that they will have
Right.
for her. You know what I'm saying? So as
Because that's how,
parent,
your mother
it's
is.
the proper
That's
way.
how your mother's claiming mine.
Right, that's right.
You know what I'm
My
saying?
own.
Your
Yeah.
mother claiming mine. Like,
Yes.
yo, those my great grandchildren.
From day
Like,
one, from the
day
day we got
one,
married.
yeah.
That's almost 7 years now, right? So claimed, and she's serious about it too. You know, even if she don't see them like she's supposed to see them, but they are claimed because they are a part of who we are.
Right.
They are a part of our village. My mother is a part of this village as well, and that's their great grandmother. And they can't, no matter, like I said before, no matter what people do to try to separate us, they can't because you could not be around us, but it doesn't stop the fact that you're still our grandchildren. No one on this earth could take that away.
Yeah.
You can do what the heck you want to do, but
Right.
it doesn't stop the situation of your grandchildren. You know, so this conversation has been so great, and you know we could go on and on and on, but you know we can't just keep talking about this all night. But that because the conversation was so good, we're gonna go on one more bonus question, because the conversation is so important, and the love of our grandchildren and the way societies is going in this day and time. These questions are so important, and I hope you know someone is getting something out of this. Right. So the next bonus question is, what do we do when our adult children are jealous or envy of the relationship that they have with their grandchildren? And do you believe that adult children are really jealous or envy of the relationship that grandparents are building with their grandchildren?
Yeah, at times I believe so. Because again, if we giving them more attention, more respect, more love, more gratitude, congratulating them on all their endeavors, achievements, doing things good in school, playing sports, just being an overall great grandchild. You know what I'm saying? So when you give them all that love, and you might get one or two or maybe all your siblings or your children that's going to be jealous of their own kid because of the love and respect that we giving their child. So yeah, I believe that, because sometimes if you ain't good at reading body language, you're going to miss it. Because you can say something like, oh, I got my grandson this, or I got my granddaughter this, and it's like, oh, you never did that for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, hold up. Sound like you jealous.
Right.
Sound like you jealous. Hold on. Because you got stuff. You just ain't getting this. With this is something totally different. This day and age in this era. Like, yeah, you got a big wheel. Okay, now this person got a bike. You know what I'm saying? You got
pulling out with the motorbikes.
Motorbikes. You know what I'm saying? So now they like, oh, you ain't get that for me. You ain't do that for me. You didn't buy me this. So now you're getting jealous. Now what are you envying now? Like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean that's true. And again, you got to read. So if they don't say it out loud, read the body language, because they be showing it.
They be showing it, right?
They be showing it.
And it's getting more popular in society, on TikTok and all over the place. And in our own family, we notice things like that because of their outbursts, our adult children outbursts, or how they act in their emotional feelings towards you. And I piggyback off of some of what you're saying. Our adult children, are they jealous or envy of the relationship we building with our grandchildren? And I would say yes. And the reason why I'm going to say yes, because they're looking at it in a different perspective. And what I mean by that is, our adult children, they think they know so much and they don't. See, when we had them, we was in the midst of raising them, Right. So we had so many things on our plate, which they are learning now. They're learning, we have so many things on our plate. So as middle-aged adults, we are no longer, we don't have children. So our grandchildren is our time. So
Right.
when we get to be with our grandchildren, we giving them our time. We giving them we able to spoil them more than we is able to spoil our children to
Yeah.
a certain percent because you were our children. You was our responsibility.
Right.
This time we get to enjoy life with now relaxing a little bit and giving more time to that child.
Right.
But our adult children, some of them don't want to understand that.
Well, they either they don't want to understand it or they have no clue. Because the simple fact is,
no clue. Okay.
because the simple fact is this: when you have a child, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're a first-time parent, you have to work, go to school, raise a child.
Right.
That's a lot,
A lot.
right? And either
don't
you
even know
either
yet.
you figure it out along the way with 1, 2, and 3 at a time. But then when you get to an age where now you are a grandparent, yes, you got time and space for spending time with your grandchildren doing other things because now you just got work. You know, so if you got work or you got other things to do, you got hobbies you can, you can lay on and do certain things and lay back and go on vacation as much as you want because you raise your children now.
Yeah.
So either the only baby you got to take care of is you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or if you with a spouse, y'all take care of each other.
Right.
But I ain't got to take care of, as a man, I got to take care of my wife, my 5 kids, the house, the bills, all that stuff. That's a lot for a parent to take care of.
Right.
And the same thing with a mother. She got to go to school, go to work, take care of 2 or 3 kids, 1 or 2. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's a lot because you got to do all this at one time. Now, when all that time is freed up, now you don't have a bunch of babies to feed. You know what I'm saying? You got 1 or 2 mouths to feed, and it's yours or your spouse or just you alone. And you just take care of your bills and you work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you got enough money, you can retire early, you can go on vacation. You got the time for yourself now. But when you're young, you got kids, it's overwhelming. So now is at the point to where you a grandparent, you ain't gotta juggle as much. You know what I mean? You ain't gotta juggle as much.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the most important thing. And like I always say, it's about wisdom and knowledge as we age it.
Yeah,
You know
the
what I'm saying?
experience. So you
Experience
get
in
the
life.
wisdom through experience in
The
certain
experience,
things.
yeah.
Reading more, experiencing life more, traveling more, going to different places, seeing different things, eating different foods. That's experience. So that with that experience, you're gonna build wisdom.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You build wisdom by learning through other people and other communications with things in life.
How to handle things.
How to handle stuff.
And that's why we are better grandparents. That's why we're better at dealing with and handling our grandchildren. And it's not us intentionally trying to get our adult children jealous, or why you didn't do this with me when I was a child. Why are you so different now? Because until you get into this stage of life, until God give you this wisdom and knowledge, you will never know. So with that being said, I would like to thank you, LaRon, for sharing your perspective of being a grandfather in today's society. I want you to know that your opinions are very appreciated, babe. Very appreciated and very much needed. So I thank you for that. And thank you all for being here. And I hope
If you are a
someone
grandparent
received
and you are dealing
a
with the
valuable
same
lesson
situation
from this
or a
conversation.
similar situation,
And
subscribe,
if-
hit that like button,
The
and
most
leave a
important
comment
thing,
down
if
below.
you did receive
because grandparents,
any
we
value
must stick
from this
together if we want
conversation,
things to change.
please like, subscribe, and leave a message, because your wisdom and your knowledge can and will help someone. And for next, and don't forget, Grandma's house is always open.
All right.
All right, baby. All right. Good job, babe. Good job.
Good.